Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Messenger. In the last part, we finished the Underworld and then found out everything was loop, and now the Artificer.
Hey, it's you! I really missed that time when we did the thing. The others don't want to do it anymore.
Welcome to the Tower Time. I'll put it back into its headquarters form after you beat the challenge, which I had designed myself, by the way. If you want to replay it, let me know. You may have missed a few hidden things.
Ooh, you like that big portal?
It's actually kind of scary. After years of research, I realized one of the items we need to recover is in the very future we're trying to prevent. If my calculations are correct, it should take you there, but in order to activate it, I would need a relic imbued with demon magic. Okay. So in the last part, we found out everything was a time loop, and now it's time to figure out what the next goal is. Look, all I'm saying is, he's been carrying the scroll for a long time already, and it could be dangerous. It is exactly as was foretold in the visions. A born-again messenger will master time itself to end the curse by fighting in 2 cycles simultaneously. I don't know, warping once to go to the future was risky enough. You think he can sustain doing that constantly? Well, unless you want to carry the scroll again, I don't see what other choice we have. Besides, we really need to find the remaining music notes. So you still believe the music box is important? Well, I am the prophet, right? So yes, I do believe in the prophecy. Well, if you really mean to help the messenger, try to tone down that wannabe epic tone of yours. Careful, heathen! The mists of legends are very complex and attempts to trivialize that. Whatever, I'll be in my shop. So, the prophet will be your guide from now on. Good luck with that. Okay.
And so the messenger rises once more.
I'm not sure what I should do next.
The mists of time are quite intricate indeed, but fear not, for the prophet is here to unravel their meaning.
More like the interpret then, am I right?
I will forgive this affront, for these are troubled times. Behold, messengers, the Tower of Time's portal nexus activates to help you on your quest.
The Tower of Time's what now?
Return here whenever you seek guidance, and I shall provide. Godspeed.
So, what should I do next?
Under the Shroud of Night, Crimson Trees shelter a magic note ready to be collected. Behold the music box. Legend says that it is the very relic maintaining the curse on humanity.
Okay. I guess I'll head through this portal then. Hey, you warped. Yeah, pretty neat. Things are probably going to get cryptic from now on with all this profit business, so you'll probably want to make extensive use of your map. My map? Your map, yes. I don't have a map. Are you kidding me? I'm telling you, I don't have a map. Okay, let me get this straight. We gave you a scroll. The fate of this whole world seems to hinge on it. We gave you a hero title relating to it. You carried it for days across countless parallel situations, even through time itself. And you never even bothered reading it. You're an animal. Turns out the scroll was actually a map. Press the left bumper to open it. Time to explore and find new areas. Press left bumper to open your map. So that map system might look a little bit familiar, right? And there's even a world map thing that shows us the individual levels, like so. I'll be in my shop. If you have the coin, I'd be happy to help mess with the prophet by pointing out the hints on the map. Be safe now. I joked when the game jumped to 16-bit that the adventure had been redefined because haha resolution increase. But now it's more literal. The game is no longer going to be straightforward Ninja Gaiden-esque levels barring a few occurrences. It is instead now a Metroidvania. We can now venture through any of the previous levels in 16-bit, find new paths between the worlds, get more power seals, and our goal is to ultimately find those music notes they talked about. There are 6 that we need to find, and the way I'm going to be structuring the LP moving forward is I'm going to be focusing more or less on one at a time. You can go back and forth, just figuring out whatever you need to do along the way, or you can do this. There's now the hint option. I'm having trouble understanding the prophecy. Maybe I can help. What did the prophet say? Under the Shroud of Night, Crimson Trees shelter a magic note ready to be collected. Really? That prophet gets sillier every day. I'd be happy to mess with him by helping it, but I need 300 time shards to operate the scrying orb. Moving forward, you can now get hints from the prophet, either by going to him directly, which you can do by just moving left in the shop into the proper Tower of Time, or just going back to one of the portals, or by accessing the map screen and then pressing, I believe it's the A button to get the hints. You can then take those very hints to the shopkeeper, and they'll simplify it by putting more or less a hint of where to go on your map directly. Now, the way I'm going to be structuring this LP moving forward beyond that, I'm not exactly sure. I know I want each part to be 15 to 20 minutes long, just as an average thing. But I'm not sure, because a lot of this point, it's going to be very Metroid-y in that there's going to be a lot of backtracking, but the levels themselves are still linear, although there's just now time portals placed throughout to flip between the 8-bit and 16-bit eras. And the goal here is to just find pathways you couldn't take in either pathway beforehand to find your end goals here. The biggest tell of whenever something is new or exclusive to one pathway is what we just saw there. You may have noticed throughout the game there are plenty of times where there are pathways, or what looked to be pathways, but they were very awkward looking geometry, where it was like maybe a block of geometry, then a block of nothing, then another block of geometry, and another block of nothing. That is just a hint that there's something there in the alternate timeline, so find the nearest time warp and check it out then. My goal here in Autumn Hills, which by the way, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the 8-bit level themes that we heard earlier in 16-bit. There are a few I like, but Autumn Hills not so much. The one frequency kind of hurts my ears. My goal here in Autumn Hills is two things. One, I want to go back to the Ninja Village, because there's an item I need to start the second music note there, and I'd rather just get that out of the way now. Additionally, I want to make sure I just get the music note here on the first try. Or rather, without wandering around for it. The thing I can't tell I want to do, though, because there's going to be a lot of backtracking in this, and a lot of it is just going to be through the 16-bit versions of the previous levels, which are just a bit more dire since it's later in the game in terms of platforming. If I want to just jump cut past a lot of it, or speed it up so you can at least see it on the footage. I'm more tempted to do the latter, even though that could keep the part number higher, because then at least you'll get a context of what's going on, and then I'll return to normal speed whenever I'm near something. But jump cutting would make the part lengths shorter, even if it keeps the part numbers at a decent count. I'm not sure which approach I'll take. I might honestly flip-flop between it, depending on how far into an area a thing I want to get to is. This is going to be the only part that's definitely like this, though, because there's a lot I want to show off, and it's a good example of what the rest of the game is going to be like just by going through Autumn Hills. Did I talk fast enough to pass 3 minutes for you, by the way? I'm sorry, I know I can be like that sometimes, but there was a lot of information to get through. With that said, now we're back in the Ninja Village, or I guess the military outposts. The main reason I'm here is because if we head back up towards where the ninja dropped down from at the start of the game in 16-bit, there's a power seal up here for us. The power seals themselves are probably the biggest hint there's going to be more to the game than meets the eye when you're first going through, because they're definitively 16-bit in look, rather than having an 8-bit sprite. Well, there's that, and the thing I mentioned earlier. I'll talk more about that in a moment, though, because I now want to go talk to the Ninja Master who we saw last in Part 1. Because there's now a time rift here in the middle of the Ninja Village, so let's go use that and talk to him. Also, I do like how the music seamlessly transitions. That's just good. Our champion returns. How is adventure treating you? A little bit harder than I thought, but the music is amazing. You left too soon. I should have taught you the power of true sight. True sight? It is a technique seldom taught to young students such as yourself. Unless the mind can be expanded, that is. How can I expand my mind? A warm cup of astral tea will do that. Unfortunately, we ran out of astral leaves a few years ago. All we have is a singular seed, but fully growing it would take centuries. Give me the seed. I'll see what I can do. I was hoping you would say that. We got the astral seed. Now to find a flower bed and wait a few centuries. I seem to recall a flower bed being mentioned earlier in the game. We have time travel, so we can take care of that relatively easily, I suppose, if you got an idea of what I'm talking about. Also, now I'm cutting back to this point earlier on in the level we saw about 3 minutes ago, maybe not even, because now this pathway is open to us. Additionally, there's also another checkpoint down here. Checkpoints that are stores are now going to be a bit more common because you're going to be constantly just going between places. And we have new upgrades open to us to compensate for the new mechanics. Additional key charges, health, and the entire line on the right compensates to them, or relates to the map. One will mark wherever time rifts are on your map. One will mark how many power seals are in an area on the world's map when you press B on a map screen. And the other will show power seals on the plane map as it is. I think I go for those before any of the other ones just because they cost less, but if you're like me and you played the game before, I would honestly recommend going for the more expensive upgrades first that are related to your health and mobility. just because they'll help you more in the long run. I will say, this right here is a very good example of what a lot of the rest of the game is going to be. A lot of flipping between dimensions because a path isn't accessible through one or the other, trying to figure out what the best way is to get through the platforming. I will say, how they incorporate the time rifts with the prior level design is absolute masterclass level design. But I'll go into this a lot, probably more in depth as we go. I love the Metroidvania approach to the latter 2/3 of the game or so, but at the same time, the fact that it's built around linear levels, it makes going back and forth for everything kind of tedious. We do have warps to thankfully make things a bit easier. Not every world has one, but back in the Tower of Time, there were, I think, 3 that opened up to us, which bring us to the Autumn Hills, Howling Grotto, and the top of the Glacial Peak in particular, and I forget about that last one each playthrough, by the way. So you do have a choice of where to go. I'm just going in what I think is the easiest to hardest route, more or less. I still like the game from this point onwards. It's just, I think, it's not as refined, I guess is the way I want to word it. With that said, I should hopefully be able to make sure that we get each music note, speaking of which. You got the Key of Hope. Materialized from the repeating intentions of countless villagers wishing their messengers well over past cycles, it is one of the notes needed to create a melody that will break the curse. As I was saying, I should be able to get each music note relegated to 1 or 2 parts on its own, barring footage where I'm going through and grabbing power seals in prior levels, because the rest of the power seals are now available to us. Most areas have 3, there are some that have 4, the Ninja Village is the only place that has 1. Additionally, in the case you want to redo the Tower of Time, as the Artificer said when we were talking to him in like the first 20 seconds, you can talk to him at any point to completely redo it. I don't think there's any future or time rifts at that point, but you can still redo it. Also, on the topic of the music notes, I briefly mentioned back when we were in Bamboo Creek that there was something that they removed from that point in the game that would have hinted towards this entire Metroidvania section. What it was that the key of adventure, which is the green note all the way on the left that's already collected in the main hub of the Tower of Time, you would have collected it in Bamboo Creek, hinting towards all of this happening. We still don't know what the key to Revenge, which is the one on the far right, played into. Some people are thinking it would have played into further DLC plans that we haven't seen yet. Honestly, people are thinking it's just a remnant from earlier game design stuff that they decided to scrap, which, you know what, if it made for the better game, I'm glad they did. There's also this new pathway now, and this leads into what I was saying a bit earlier. There are now also in certain areas pathways that lead to different areas individually. For instance, this is going to lead us directly into the graveyard, or the catacombs, so we don't have to take the short or the long cut through the latter third of Autumn Hills into the Forlorn Temple. I still want to do that because I not only have a power seal to show off up there, but there's also some dialogue I want to show off over there right now. But in the case you want to get to the catacombs or to Autumn Hills from either direction, this is the easiest way to do so. Also not too fond of the Catacombs theme in 16-bit until it starts going, but it mainly comes down to there's a couple of frequencies that the Genesis-y kind of sound font has that just don't sound good in anything they're in, even in the actual Sega Genesis games. There's a reason Genesis games had that distinctive twang to them that was very iconic, and the only games that didn't really have it or use it, or at least use it to their advantage well, were like Sonic, the Wily Tower in Mega Man Wily Wars, Vector Man, and Streets of Rage, really. There's probably a couple that I'm not mentioning that people are like, why didn't you mention this? Like maybe Comic Zone, now that I think about it. And it's also because I haven't played the entire damn Genesis library. Calm down, people. Honestly, when it comes to Metroidvanias nowadays, there is seldom a game I feel hits the wandering aspect of Metroid correctly. And I think I may have brought this up recently in something else for all I know. Maybe Guacamelee 2, which honestly I probably did there. Most of them tend to have the Order of Ecclesia, Shantae, and the Pirate's Curse, or Half Genie Hero for that matter, more level-based approach to their Metroidness. Where there is stuff to go back and grab, but you're seldom wandering randomly through a giant world trying to figure out where you can go next with your new abilities. Good examples of the former that I was talking about are things like Iconoclasts, this, and a couple others. Whereas the rare example of something that does Metroid-type exploration right, that's not Castlevania, is stuff like Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which I still haven't played, but by the looks it nails it correctly, and the Ori games get it especially right. And it makes me wonder if it's people trying to not delve too deeply into the source material because their mechanics aren't too well fitted to the Metroid style of gameplay, or they want to try something different. I could honestly not fault them for either. Hey there, Necro.
Hey, it's you again. Thanks for saving me earlier. I've been looking for my colleagues Acro, Claustro, and Pyro.
And they're all lost in places we can now reach. Also, fun fact, see that well there? It might be important later. And by that I mean, what the hell? What's that? Ah, yes, the jukebox. Jukebox? Silly name, huh? I brought it back from one of my journeys through time back in the day. I'm not sure what it's for, but it sure looks pretty cool. So what happened to the cabinet? Oh, I teleported it somewhere else since we didn't need it anymore. Where is it now? That's something you may or may not find out later. You unlock the jukebox. Play your favorite tune in the shop or access it through the pause menu to change the level's track. Essentially, if you're not liking a certain remix of a song, or there's just music you'd rather listen to, you can now do that at any point. And I'm also going to apply the time sensibility, which adds a blue glow to the map, indicating wherever time rifts are. The main reason I came over here to the Forlorn Temple was to get the last power seal in the Autumn Hills, because it's, I think, the easiest way to get to where the third power seal is, or fourth one technically, because where it is where the first power seal in the game was. Something you may have noticed and I didn't point out is that there are breakable blocks down here in the bottom right of the room that lead to the final power seal for the Autumn Hills. This is also why, this entire section is why, back in part 4, that platforming sequence for the magic conch, whatever the hell it is I have in my inventory, was kind of a difficulty spike, because you're not meant to do it until around this point in the game when you have not only the rope dart, but further abilities in general. It's a little bit of a sequence break that I did back then, and I'll bring that up again when I actually am using it for its relevant purpose. I just did it in the order I wanted to because it reserved backtracking for later. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 10, we're going to be starting back, I believe, in the Tower of Time before heading on to the next music note. See you guys then.